Um, Welcome, everybody, to this session. Our session is about reclaiming truth and trust. And we are going to look at community led approaches to combating disinformation in Africa. And this session is co hosted by Jamii Africa and iWatch Africa. Yeah, so it's a combination of the East and the West. Yeah. I have my panelists here, and I'm not going to do much of the talking. I'd like for them to introduce themselves and also be, yeah. I think we can start with Mercy in the introductions. Yeah, ladies first. Yeah, it would be a disservice to not start with you. So
Wow, gender equality.
let's start with her.
Okay, morning everyone. So my name is Masia Biro Owila. I have been a researcher and a program lead focusing on mis and disinformation in East Africa over the last 7 years. I currently oversee a project by the Thompson Foundation focusing on mis and disinformation in Uganda ahead of 2026 elections. But also, I have done work with Africa Uncensored, the Omega Research, as well as threats, focusing, of course, on the digital media landscape, mis and disinformation, influence operations, and the effect they have on democracy as a whole across the region, and also the effects on the information integrity ecosystem. Yes.
See, kindly pass the mic to Maxence.
A very good afternoon. My name is Maxence Melo. I'm the executive director of Jamii Africa, and I'm the founder of a platform known as Jamii Forums. I've been in the digital space over 20 years as an innovator, as a defender of freedom of expression and human rights online. I've been a victim of many draconian laws in Tanzania, and actually this month, my platform got suspended in Tanzania because of challenging the president. I've been in prison, I've been in courts, but also I just resigned as a member of the board of the Data Protection Commission in Tanzania. Thank you.
Innocent.
Hi everyone, my name is Innocent Mangu and I serve as the Information Integrity Lead at Jamii Africa, what as just my day as explained a few seconds ago. So together with my colleagues, I work to ensure that our institution responds effectively to the challenges of misinformation and disinformation. So I'm so much excited to be here today and I'm looking forward to participating to this engaging session. So thank you so much.
Hi everyone, my name is Philip Banini. I am coming from Accra, Ghana. I'm the team lead and co-founder of iWatch Africa. What we do at iWatch is basically fighting digital rights, organized crime, illicit financial flows.
Disinformation is the fact that the relativity, right? When we look at the mis and disinformation landscape generally, it's always rampant at particular periods in time. That is during elections or as we're heading towards elections. The other seasons when they're actually very, very rampant is, say, in instances of conflict or countries going through conflict. That's when we see a massive surge of mis and disinformation. And one of the things we've noticed is with hate speech thrives again on the emotional awareness of the population. If the population is emotionally charged, then it's always a breeding ground for hate speech. And of course, looking at the context of conflict and election, those are breeding grounds for hate speech to actually come out more prevalent. I will give an instance of Uganda right now. We have a very interesting man who is standing for the next presidency, and we know he's old. However, with the things or with the tweets that the CDF puts online, right? For instance, there was I think an instance where he kept claiming that I will arrest the opposition leaders and put them in my basement and teach them my local language, right? So To an outsider, that's probably, hey, it's just a simple comment, right? But to somebody who is in the country, that's basically telling you that, hey, I will actually abduct you and torture you if you actually come against me. And the challenge again that comes in with the platform is the fact that platforms are not regulating that content. X did not regulate that content. They did not take down that content, but of which it sent a very chilling message across the board to all actors. So going back to the question of mitigation, I think again, platforms need to understand the localized context of what it actually means, but also reading between the lines of satire and sarcasm. Because in Africa, our mode of communication is always sarcasm. We never really say things the way they are supposed to be said. We always find a way of blanketing it. The other thing is, we look at as a lasting solution is pre-banking. What does that mean? Creating sort of heat signatures or learning patterns of mis and disinformation and hate speech. We notice that in every election cycle for African countries, it's always 4-5 years, and content that has been used in one election is always recycled. The threats are always recycled. The biggest question is we never really pay attention to the patterns and the frequencies on that. So one of the ways that we can actually focus on is, again, being able to map these patterns out, but also be able to pre-bank and create heat signatures or early warning systems, in that if this content is recycled, you're able to read between the lines and notice. The other aspect is the media literacy, which is a big challenge, again, within the continent. Most of the people we have, again, rely on various platforms, radio, social media, television, newspapers, and of which, again, these are sort of amplifiers of hate speech, because what happens on social media is always carried down to mainstream media as a topic of conversation. So media literacy is another area that we could focus on, but also transparent labeling. And I think this sort of goes back to community standards that have been created by tech platforms. These can help us actually create, again, mitigation strategies for mis and disinformation. The biggest question that comes in is localization of this transparent labeling, because what can be transparent labeling in Namibia might not be the same in Uganda, might not be the same in South Sudan, right? So being able to have sort of a community standard that says, okay, for Uganda, we need to have this. And I think that comes through a multi-stakeholder collaborative approach with, again, regulators. What do they think about in terms of regulating content? What do they think, right? But also, again, the bottom-up approach of engaging with the stakeholders is very important.
Mercy, and I think you've touched on a number of things, and maybe I'll go to Innocent, and throw this question to him, and I think this is drawing from what Mercy talked about, patterns of mis and disinformation, and especially relating to our election cycles. And I also want to also further the conversation we had on AI and all that. So as now we are in the era of AI, we are talking deep fakes, synthetic media spreading. How have you, as Jamii Check, adapted technically, but also operationally, to be able to do your work effectively?
Yeah, thank you so much for the very nice question. And for the first time, I've heard someone who is speaking the similar language that we at Jamii Africa always speak on our daily basis. She has touched on a citizen-centric system, of which I will speak of it later. But going back to Ziada, what has asked, she has asked about how are we adapting to the challenges of synthetic and deepfakes. I must agree that these are the pressing challenges for the current ages, especially for the misinformation and the disinformation. So at Jamii Africa, the way how we operate, we use local-made AIs which are integrated to our system. And as we are speaking, just 5 days ago, we deployed a new AI system in our platform. It helps us to flag the contents which seems to be suspicious, or maybe they might be misleading people. But we have moderators, I mean local fact checkers, who are very well trained. So taking into considerations that we use local made AIs, we have to make sure that we also have local fact checkers, because these AIs, they never understand the local context. So despite the fact that we use very systemic and modern AI systems, still there is a human touch in our daily operations. But our team is being trained continuously, locally and internationally. So on every day we have systems and we have a mechanism, like we'll be having a morning briefing every day. So we'll be giving ourselves updates, like for now there is something which is trending. So the team will always be adapting to new changes that are always coming every day. And so, as I've said previously, we are also cooperating with other partners from outside Tanzania. We have friends from Germany, Zimbabwe, Ghana, Kenya, Uganda. So all of this works in a similar way, that we share knowledge, good practices and skills that helps us in making sure that whatever we do is always on time and ahead of times.
Innocent. I want to go to Maxence, and from what Innocent has said, deploying an AI system that flags content and all that, I'd like to ask you like a question. Jamii Africa is both a defender of freedom of expression, online freedoms, but also doing work in curbing the online harms. And now that we are talking about reclaiming truth, rebuilding trust, how do you do that? How do you balance your position as someone who defends online freedoms, but also doing work in curbing these online harms?
Well, it's a bit wide. But to be honest, for people who are of my age and above, the ones who are above 35, we know where we came from. The days when we used to rely on what the newspaper publishes and we used to believe it was the fact. And the early days of the internet, I think we can recall that our governments, do you have any state actor here? Our governments used to believe the internet is an extension of a newspaper. So we come from those kind of narratives. And here we are. We have a new generation, actually the ones who call themselves Gen Z. And when AI came, most of us became users and not implementers of AI. So most of us actually are users. But at Jamii Africa, we have a special team that creates a locally made tool for curbing mis and disinformation. It's currently in Swahili, but we are going to deploy it in other countries wherever it's needed. So we have been through some kind of transitions as an institution, but that's why in the early introduction of my name, I introduced my name and the past experience that I've been through, and actually of the recent kind of event in Tanzania that even our platform has been suspended for 90 days until elections are over. So we have seen this in Tanzania. We are also now getting to Uganda, Kenya, Rwanda, DRC, and Zimbabwe. If you visit jamiifront.com, you see that these are upcoming platforms. We are currently training local content managers. We believe in local context. I think I need to make that clear. We don't believe like the big tech way, the way they do it, that they believe they deploy one big tool, that globally we use the same tool, the same way. But the kind of tools that we're building at the moment are considering the local context. We went to Uganda for research. We met different stakeholders. And we thank each and everyone, from state actors, CSOs, media actors, including digital content creators, to get a local context and then look for local people who can be managing local platforms. And from that kind of experience, we came to realize you don't expect a certain kind of country or certain kind of geography to have a similar kind of experience to another geography. The tools that we are developing for Rwanda are totally different from the ones that we're using in Tanzania. The tools that we are currently developing for Zimbabwe are totally different from the tools that we're using in Tanzania. And the current tool that we're doing for working on for Uganda and Rwanda are totally different. The thing is, after every 5 years, we see a different kind of generation. And I think you guys need also to go and research every 5 years. It's far beyond politics. Even the mindset changes. And the political pressure will always rise. Some countries have 4 years between they change the political regime, and some 5 years. But in that process, one thing we need to know, all political regimes or all countries are run by something called the script. I don't know whether you're aware of that. And that script is almost similar in most of these countries. The same script they're using is the same script they're using in the digital age. People rely on information to make decisions. The quality of information they receive, the quality of decision they make. And bad actors, sadly, mostly are our governments. Actually, the biggest misinformer are state actors. They may do it themselves or through some kind of, in Tanzania, we call them chawa. I don't know what happens in other countries, but you have those people who are, they used to be known as social or influencers, but nowadays they're being used to spread mis and disinformation. You may not get it, but at the end, they're leading people into making a certain kind of action, which is in favor of the ruling class or in favor of the opposition. At Jamii Africa, what we do is creating an enabling environment for actors, whether you're from CISO, media, and citizens, to have a safe space for meaningful dialogue. Thank you.
Much. I'm going to come to you, Philip, and I'm going to ask you, I'm going to merge two questions for you. Yeah. So beyond reporting falsehoods, what does sustained, meaningful citizen engagement look like in your model as iWatch Africa? But also, we would also like to hear what patterns are you observing in West Africa? What disinformation patterns, hate speech patterns are you observing? What worries you now, and what does that reveal? What are the tactics used?
All right. Thank you so much for the question. Sorry, I lost my voice, so pardon me. In West Africa, particularly Ghana, we call them full soldiers. Yes, that's how we call them. Those that spread misinformation and disinformation, especially using the socials, we call them full soldiers. Maybe you were looking for a word for West Africa, so just back to my question. In iWatch or at iWatch, we believe in long sustained partnerships by training. I think that came across all the discussions we have here. But we have a platform called Disinfo, which intends to have co-creators to fact check information and disinformation on all social media platforms. So we train these people, equip them with knowledge and tools that will be able to have them work on their own to track particularly journalists, women journalists in Ghana. For now, the platform is focused on Ghana, but we intend to deploy it across some countries in the West Africa sub-region. What worries most is mostly about our political cycle system where every 4 years we have elections. People are empowered to spread information, or let me put it, disinformation that is not true, but it's inure to the benefit of the political class or whoever is their paymaster. That is largely been encouraged by the political parties, sometimes by some media organizations, and also by civil society sometimes. It's sad to say, by civil society. It depends on who is paying you and what you intend to do with what they are paying you for. So what we need to do as duty bearers, as policy makers or implementers? We need to make sure we tread cautiously where our funding comes from, because you always do the bidding of whoever pays you. Thank you.
Do you have something to add there? Okay.
Yeah, I think we need to share as stakeholders here to see if these kinds of patterns are similar. In Tanzania, what's worrying, actually not in Tanzania only, we see the trend, as I said before, people are being paid to spread mis and disinformation. But when there is a certain kind of narrative that has been, because Jamii Check is citizen-centric. We don't have journalists who are doing the work. People see something, they bring it to the platform. We use AI to let them know it's false or not. But we have a team of fact checkers at Jamii Check. But the moment there is anything that is related to the government or the ruling party that has been debunked, the pressure comes from the state. Actually, they make a call to why did you have to debunk that? It wasn't necessary. Actually, even before we got 90 days suspension in Tanzania, it was following a number of ruling party campaigns, because they are doing campaigns in Tanzania as we speak. When they are doing some of the campaigns and they are misleading with some kind of narratives, we came up with something which we call kumbukizi. I don't know how you put that, recalling what they said 2 to 3 years ago. And then we decided not to make it like pre-banking or debunking, but remind you, the same guy who is saying we are going to do this, 3 years ago, they said this. We never added anything, but we bring the same kind of video, we take to the public to get to know, you have been told this, but 3 years ago, they said this. And actually, they were not happy with that. So when you debunk anything which has some kind of political interests, there's a price to it.
Much. For the interest of time, is there any question from the audience before I go on another round of questions?
I'm speaking for him, so you give. Oh, okay. Sorry. I have a question for you, sir, about AI. So deaf people are not quite good at reading English, especially, because the grammar between English and sign language is quite different. So we do tend to use AI to help us gain understanding. But in Namibia, we are progressing quite slowly, especially for us as deaf people. So I wanted to ask, how can we as the deaf community try to be up to par and try to incorporate AI in our means of communication daily? Especially when there's a lot of misinformation out there, how can we stay safe to know that we can still stay informed at the same time?
Okay, thanks for a great question. And actually, the tools we build at Jamii Africa, actually among them is Jamii Check, and the head of Jamii Check is here. They're being built in collaboration with the community from the people living with disabilities. So we are more than happy, because we're a non-profit entity. We are more than happy to come here. We need nothing from your end but your cooperation to make sure that we build tools in your local context that understands your needs, and you'll be testing them before we take them to the publics. So we are more than happy to collaborate with you. We need nothing from your end than just collaboration. What I believe in is mass stakeholder collaboration is the key to success, whether it's within information integrity, which we call information fact-checking, or freedom of expression. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Not a question per se, but just to get clarity, there's mention of localization. Is this also incorporating local languages? Oh.
I hope everyone heard. Yes, in Uganda we are going to respect the local context, and we are going to work with local.
Specifically talking on my point, I understand the importance of data. So data, it can be manipulated and can be biased. So in such cases, looking at I know the government, most of our government, all of us, we are against the government. they do have people who are specialized in cybersecurity. So I understand how we cybersecurity guys or who want to pursue in that era, how do we, because I for myself, I want a system that can protect the citizens and something that can benefit the citizens. So in a protection way, how can we protect whose data coming from who and protecting the same person who has their data, because the cybersecurity guys are coming at a very pace that is very dangerous for everyone. So to protect the citizens is my main main concern, because protection is very important.
Wow. Cybersecurity. I think it's good that we're having this conversation because around that mis and disinformation landscape, cybersecurity is an important anchor, both for fact checkers, but also for the media. When you're looking at, again, who you are online is not really private. I will tell you that. I'll give reference to a couple of years ago. So when we had an election in Uganda in 2021, Twitter had open APIs. And with open APIs or access points, we could actually scrape as much data as we can on Ugandan hashtags, influencers. And these data sets would come with, again, who you are, your coordinates, what you're tweeting, your account, how you opened that account, including your Gmail preference. If you used a phone number, it was there. We had it. So again, on the cybersecurity side of it, as we say, the online space is not safe. You open up your accounts on social media, it is not safe. And most times, again, we recommend always try to use at least Proton mail, but also use mails that can't really trace back to you as an individual, especially if you are in a politically sensitive area or you're in an area of conflict. And again, digital security, cybersecurity it starts from an individual. It doesn't start from the top. You need to know techniques again. You need to know how to keep yourself safe. For instance, right now, we are advocating for people to avoid having sensitive conversations via telecom lines, right? So if I pick up my phone right now and let's say I give a call to Maxence here, there's a 98% likelihood that actually this phone call would be intercepted. And that's because, again, the tactics have evolved. Digital security evolves. So the question that comes back is, as citizens, what are we doing to keep updated with that? There are organizations that offer digital security services, and we're glad that during this conference, there's actually digital security tables across. So it's very easy for you to now access that if you need that service. So you can just go across the hall and somebody will be able to support. But overall, anything my last word is anything that is communicated on an open channel, whether be it a phone call, whether be it on the internet, it is not really encrypted. It is not really safe, because it can be retraced back to you. That is why we go back to the traditional way, which is meet in person. I know we love virtual meetings. Meet in person if you have something sensitive to say. But also, if you're lucky enough and you own a pigeon, I mean, you could actually just send a pigeon. But also, the other caution is for smartphones like this, please avoid, like if you are a human rights defender, please do not use this, because it listens to you. If you have a conversation with a group of friends and one of your friends is carrying an old button Nokia phone and you're in a group of 10 people, you should be scared, because I mean, a buttoned phone versus this, you definitely know you're not really safe with that person.
I'm adding, not opposing. Well, you have to consider whatever she said, but that's why we fall into this position as Jamii Africa. You can visit our website, jamii.africa. We focus more on digital security and privacy. And we are not a for-profit entity. You cannot scrap people's data on Jamii Forums platforms at all. We don't keep your data, and we have a policy which is on the public domain. We collect nothing from your end that can identify your location. We don't collect your phone numbers. Your emails is accessed only by you. not even us. And actually it is used to communicate with you. We work in collaboration with Cloudflare. You can also go check who they are. And actually to get to know who we are in detail, you can go and search the case against me, 3 criminal cases against me. Search my name, Maxence Melo, put Cybercrimes Act or cybercrimes cases. I had to appear 159 times in court to defend the right to privacy. That's why they even had to appoint me to get into the Data Protection Commission to be one of the commissioners. But because they expected me to be paid, and I never said I want to be paid, I never got a cent from them. It ended it into some kind of trouble. We need to work with like-minded actors like you. I'm also a cybersecurity expert. I train in several countries, and I train in Tanzania too. But we cannot win alone. We need to work in collaboration. Jamii Forums platform. No one has ever been arrested for using Jamii Forums platform, but most people in Tanzania have been arrested for using Facebook, for using WhatsApp, for using Twitter, because it's very easy to buy people's personal data from these big tech platforms. Again, you need to be aware that whatever you're doing, because these for-profit platforms are just trading with their personal data, they harvest a lot of information without your knowledge.
Yes, let me just add and then we can take the questions. To add to what my colleagues have said, I think in Ghana, we have a Data Protection Act. I don't know about the other African countries. And then we are also establishing, almost done, the Cybersecurity Authority, which is to protect you and I as Ghanaians. But, you know, those are government entities. So like they said, you have to protect yourself first before they can protect you. So we need to also ride on these authorities, these policy bearers or duty actors to protect ourselves too. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for the conversations. My name is Victor from Kenya. And my question is around the utility of the platform. So like you've talked about Jamii Check and the other one is Disinfo. And of course, we've seen a couple of other platforms across the continent, Pesa Check, Africa Check. And in your trends analysis, you mentioned that a lot of the spikes in disinfo come around elections and mass public order events. So protests and even public health emergencies. And so the thing that I've been struggling with, and maybe from your experience, has been how much traffic do we direct citizens to actually fact check on these platforms? Because you see, in a political context, most of the time people will be either for one side or against the other side, and they'll actually be active participants in spreading disinformation. And we take it as disinfo because they actually know it's false, but it suits their political agenda. And so in that context, how then do we get this mass awareness that we can actually fact check on these platforms? Because I get a sense that the average internet user will not directly say, let me go to Jamii Check or Disinfo to confirm and verify this. So how do we mainstream what you're fact checking into the platforms? And I know the platforms had certain programs that allowed for this, and I think they stopped it at some point, but also then whether they actually do it intentionally or not, because also, of course, remember, they make money with whatever disinfo thrives on the platform. So I wondered, from your experience, how do we drive people to actually utilize these platforms that we spend a lot? Because, I mean, it's community building, but also disinfo is community perpetrated.
For us at Jamii Check, we use different approaches. For instance, we work with 15 community radio stations. So we know for sure radio is still the media like most of the people trust. And even those with very little digital literacy, they have an access to radio. So we are working closely with more than 15 community radio stations. After fact checking our stories, we always, like, we will amplify them ourselves, but we also send to such radios. They will help us in making amplification. But we are also working with a lot of university like we came to discover that most of the curriculum in our universities, they don't have those components of fact checking. So we have MOU with more than 10 universities, and we have trained a lot of students for mass comm and journalism, even their lecturers. And some are even asking us like we should take part in their lecturers at the universities. Again, we are working with community leaders like these influential peoples like bishops, like even these Muslim communities, and everyone who has a voice that can be listened and heard in the community. We work with them. But most importantly, we work with the Union of Tanzanian Press Clubs. And so they always help us in getting journalists. And so far, in 3 years, because Jamii was launched in 2022, so now we have 3 years in the space. So we have trained more than 3,000 journalists across the country, and we always incubate them. Like after every 1 month, we bring them, sit them, like we will have training maybe for 1 week or 2 weeks, we train them. And when they go out, they become our ambassadors. They even become multipliers of what we have taught them. So working together closely with multiple communities, it helps us like amplifying our stories and even making people understand that if they have anything, they can bring it to Jamii, or even using such information we are disseminating to radio stations in making informed decision. But most importantly, we came to understand that we cannot reach to every place, to every individual. So we have designed a very special course, and it will be launched very soon. So whoever wants to learn on how to do fact checking can come, learn for free, and we'll give him certificate. So it will be given, and the person just need to have his own data and maybe a phone or something. Then he comes or she comes, learn, and get a certificate.
Just to add on one thing that you bring a very good question, and I'll go back to the media scholars understand the news cycle, right? When we look at the news cycle, and again, this goes back to communities. The thing about the news cycle is it's every 24 hours, right? News changes. And the first thing that we notice, again, within communities is understanding. You need to understand what the news cycle looks like. Fact checking is not as complex as people make it sound, right? It's just you understanding the news cycle and what's actually happening. When we look at election times, right? It's very simple for you to piece 1 + 1. If you're going to see a mis and disinformation narrative, right? There's always going to be a big pop-up headline of something huge that has happened, which is either an event, right? When that event is published on mainstream media, it ends up on social media as breaking news, right? Look at the timing of the breaking news, right? How does it translate to what is actually happening on ground, right? When you translate to what is actually happening on ground, does it actually make sense? Do the facts add up? That is the easiest way, again, for communities to be able to understand how mis and disinformation works, because it works according to the news cycle that you have. And again, if you have a 24-hour window and there's less reaction from the public, right? It is going to be pushed aside because the public forgets. We have 24 hours, we forget news, right? But it is until another event of the same caliber happens, that's when we recycle the same content. So in the recycling, again, it goes back to the consumers of the content. Are you keen on knowing when this content has been recycled? For every election cycle, people keep recycling content. It's just you pointing out when did this actually break out? How did it break out? What are the circumstances? So it's, again, leveraging on open source or open data. It is not that complex. It's just using the normal tools that you have to piece 1 + 1. And that's why we have, again, local experts are very important because they give a contextual understanding of what is happening. So that when you're reporting or fact checking and publishing fact checking bulletins, you have a very concrete idea of where the origin of the story was. You don't have missing pieces.
I wanted to add on top of what you, it's food for thought, to be honest. Dissemination is also key. What channels are we disseminating this kind of information? We already debunked a certain kind of message, but how are people getting the message? We decided also to partner with Meta. We don't have to see big tech as a threat. Sometimes we have to see them as an ally. So we have an MOU with Meta as a trusted partner. We know the local context, they don't. We debunk some stories, they may not be able, actually they don't do it anymore. So what we do is we also have a WhatsApp channel So we have which with more than 1 million subscribers. Once it is posted on our channel, people start circulating on WhatsApp groups. We also have a number of Instagram, TikTok accounts, and X, so that once we post it on our social platforms, people will repost or will share widely. Just to let you know that it's not only on our platform or on the app, it goes far beyond the app. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Penina Igaga from Uganda. And I found a very interesting conversation happening here. Thank you for all the work that you've put in and the deliberations. Now, the conversation got me thinking on, beautifully put, you are involving a lot of local leaders, you're using a lot of radio stations. In what language is all this information being disseminated in? Is it English? I'm going to go back to Uganda. I come from Busoga, and in Busoga there's a little village called Namutumba. So I'm a lawyer by profession, but a lot of my work is in the grassroots communities. The conversation that we had on the main platform was, or part of the conversation was, working from down going up as opposed to what's happening right now. Now, working from down going up involves also making sure my grandmother in Namutumba knows exactly what disinformation is, okay? And so it also goes back to my practice. I literally have to teach or help people understand the law in Lusoga. You know how difficult that is after years of English in law school, okay? But that's part of me making sure that information, part of debunking certain things will be having someone comprehend it in a language that they understand. Now, language aside, how simple is it? It should be me understanding what disinformation is in the simplest form. When I'm teaching the law or trying to break down the law, I try to explain the law to someone within a community who, like I would explain it to a 5-year-old, okay? I was privileged working with policy on, on a case where we were working with hail riders, okay? People who drive Uber, all those Glovo, all those people who offer that service on apps. One of their main concerns was that they didn't understand the terms in their contracts because they were in English. So we were trying to task the apps to make sure that when you give a contract, give it in a language that they can understand. So back to all this, is all this information given in a language that I will understand? Remember, there are so many languages in the different countries. Thank you.
The Ugandan in me wants to come out. Thank you for that. I think with local communities, one of the challenges we've had is the use of fancy terms, misinfo, demystify. I don't know the other one, debunk. Very fancy words, right? But I think one of the lessons I've gotten over the years is explaining disinformation from a localized aspect. And the easiest is rumors. That is it. Disinformation is rumors. The only difference is medium, right? And with local communities, we've realized again, the gap between information holders and the community is quite big. Because word of mouth, if you're to look at the way word of mouth is used in, again, spreading information, everybody can alter it based on what you've understood. And with local communities across Africa, regardless of the language, that is the biggest challenge. And the problem that comes up is the power holders or the information holders in these communities are not open to sharing. They do not want to clear the air. So you find that because of a rumor that you started and person 100 who is probably a radio presenter in your village ended up on radio and spoke about it, it becomes fact. And again, it goes back to the ethics of journalism. Most radio presenters that are hired in local grassroots communities are not journalists. So they will not verify. They will not give the person a right to reply. They will not even go and look for the information because for them, it's to tick a box. And again, the the biggest question that we keep asking ourselves, we worked with local leaders, government, is to what extent are you willing to hold on to the information even when it affects your community? Because it might be a matter of life or death. So when we're looking at community, it's breaking it down into the simplest form, really. How does a rumor spread? Going back to our basics of what is communication. That helps us to give them a picture of how, again, you're distorting information. What we're speaking about in terms of distortion, manipulation, that is all happening with us having a one-on-one. And also looking at the power centers in those communities is important. Women are the biggest spreaders of misinformation in local communities because we meet together to gossip and everyone has a version of the gossip. So by the time we've met together and we have basically left the gossiping center, we all have versions of the story. And that is how mis and disinformation actually start. You have those groups together, they go and disseminate. The woman will go and tell her husband will go and tell. It's now a chain link reaction. But it comes down to understanding where those power centers in terms of information flow in those communities. Those will be markets, churches, those places that bring people together. And those would be the first dissemination grounds for them to understand mis and disinformation locally. I hope that answers your question.
You wanted me to add something? Okay, this is what we do at Jamii Check and Jamii Africa at large. First, we sign agreements with like-minded actors, CSOs, lawyers, radio stations, media actors, and the bodies. But what we build is communities that are citizen-centric at the local level. In Tanzania, we started with only true filters. True, not true. Then we came to realize what we think is true in Dar es Salaam is not true in Mwanza. So we had to shift the gears. So we came up with another filter, a myth. And actually what we think is a myth in Uganda, when you go to Kenya, it's a fact. Actually, these tools have to be built in collaboration with people at the local level. We are builders of systems. When we come to your country, where we have been into Uganda, I'd love to connect with you after this session. We'd love to work in collaboration with people who are going at the grassroots level, so that once we are debunking something, we have someone at the local level who understands why this kind of rumor started at that local level. Because when we are debunking a story or pre-bunking it, we put the narrative. How did we reach to this conclusion? So that if someone is reading it, they come to realize, oh, it started like this. Actually, the truth is this. And actually, these are the things that have been said before. And that's why they came up with this kind of conclusion. We do not stop there because it's a system-centric approach. We allow people to react to it. Similar to some kind of community notices, but in our African context.
Please add and then.
All right, thank you so much. I just want to add that sometimes there will be biases because the languages are varied. In Ghana alone, we have close to 400 local languages. We are trying to integrate only 3 major languages on our platform. So you can see the challenge. What happens to the rest of the languages we are leaving out? It means practically they cannot locally participate or understand these things. We did a research with Thomson Reuters on 4 major things. That is defamation guide in Ghana, one in Tanzania, and then journalistic sources. I am happy to announce that we've managed to translate these guides into Swahili. Yes, I can share the links later when we do. So we are trying our best, but you know, these things are money bound. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Toini Nekundi, and I'm from Namibia. So this is a very interesting topic about media, technology, and communication. So, for example, I am deaf, as you can see, and we use sign language. So our hearing panel here are using oral languages, which is not obviously something I could understand. So a lot of times the deaf community is sidelined because we need to go through an interpreter. And through that, if an interpreter misses information, we could also miss the correct message that is being given. Our interpreters' languages also has an influence. You could have different tribes in an audience who are deaf, but because the interpreter is from a certain tribe, for example, they could also misconstrue or misunderstand certain information. So the interpreters also, sometimes we get bad interpreters, interpreters who do not comprehend what we are signing, and vice versa, who we ask to interpret us and then they don't understand what we are signing. So it's really difficult for the deaf community when it comes to communication. And it's important to empower the deaf community, not just in Namibia, but worldwide, to overcome these challenges and communicate in various different ways. It's our responsibility, and now you're giving us all this information about technology, media, AI, and all these are things that we need to take forth to the rest of the deaf community, because we do have challenges, and not just deaf communities, but people or persons with other disabilities as well. It's great. This panel has a lot of experience, and we all could use that in our daily lives. So thank you. I would like to add something, please. I want to echo what Toini just said. Every single time we attend or we are invited to opportunities and platforms such as this, we always receive such very important information. And thank you to the panelists sitting in front of me today, because I'm really learning a lot that I could implement. And of course, information dissemination is very important for us deaf people. We use a lot of word of mouth. Each and every one of you give information. Various people come to us with opportunities like from China or Germany, but we are unable to undertake or take over those opportunities because of the lack of communication and information that reaches us. So a lot of information comes to us through word of mouth. So everybody who can hear, whether it's through radio, they receive information firsthand. And so we need to wait for interpreters or our friends to come across a post or the television at news time when there is an interpreter present for us to receive that kind of information. And my second point, I'm just checking my notes. So one of the challenges that deaf people face is partnership and working together with deaf persons. There is a lot of training and teaching and things that happen for other people. Organizations encouraging people, giving them training opportunities to excel. That is great. I hope the same comes to us as deaf people, because we don't receive that information. We need information to come to us in sign language. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
As Jamii Africa can guarantee we can do that, because the tools that we have built, Jamii Forms and the other tools, we worked in collaboration with people with, how do you call it? Visionary impaired people. You know, we can see, I'm using glasses, but the ones who are not seeing as we do, we had to sit down with them to build tools that they can use their personal portable devices, we may call them phones, that once they get into the platform, they still can read texts on Jamii forums. They still can even read the captions on the pictures. And actually, they also can tell the picture they are seeing, or they can sense that is posted on the platform. I believe in inclusion, but we cannot do it alone. We need people who have similar kind of, or have such kind of disabilities, to work in collaboration, to build tools that work for them. Thank you.
My name is Nelson Kwaje. I'm from South Sudan. I am the executive director of DRF, the Digital Right Frontlines, but we also run a platform called 211 Check. It's the leading fact-checking entity in South Sudan. I kind of just have two questions. One of it is on, and I'll kind of give a narrative like, last week in South Sudan, we had an incident where there was an opposition leader who was detained, and one of his bodyguards died in detention. One of the bodyguards who was detained died in detention. So that news came out. But the opposition leaders, the spokesperson for the opposition went and picked an image from long ago of a very weak prisoner who's chained. You can see the person is very malnourished, this person who has been chained for long. But the picture is from 2011, 2012. And then he placed it online. The news of the death itself is very shocking, but to add that picture to it, it just created a lot of emotions on the public, and people wanted to act. So because we do have we have the public platform where we publish, but we also have a WhatsApp group. The WhatsApp group is mainly for community of practice. We have journalists and other people who worked in this sector, about 300 of them. So we shared that fact check in the group. We said, hey, this image is actually faulty, but that does not mean the person did not die. So then our people are like, hey, you fact check this and publish it. And I told them, this is very politically sensitive. It might make our platform be labeled as, what is the word? Insensitive or supporting the government narrative on this. But the key thing is that by adding that picture, the opposition is tapping into an emotion that might create violence. So I told the people in the group, you, the community of practice, the journalists, we are just helping you. You find a way of fact checking this, because the political cost of posting that on our platform is too much. So the journalists, they went, but I told them you will be labeled as insensitive and supporting the government narrative, but that's at your own cost. So they went through the comments or everything. They went and bombarded the digital space, and then afterwards, I'm seeing some of the influencers started picking up the content, and the leader of the spokesperson of the opposition came and apologized for misleading in terms of the picture. But a lot of the people who fact checked this, I could see in the comments, they're saying, now, does this help with the brutality? Does this mean the person did not die? And all this kind of stuff. And I think that's a very key thing to fact check. As I think you learn fact checking organization. I mean, the question at times is that, like, do you really want to be the carrier of every message? Because we're very quick in like, hey, we need our logo on it. We need to ensure that we're the ones who actually broke the news on this. We're the ones who fact checked. But at times, does it really help the end result in terms of trying to fact check everything? I think that's the question that I probably want some of you to kind of deal with it. And then there's the subtext to this. The question is that, like, I know a lot of you are doing fact checking. We're doing fact checking. But the main question that I'm asking, are you really changing minds of people who already made up their mind, especially in this political context? Are you changing anyone's mind with the fact check? Because I can tell you from someone who's been doing this for 5 years, there are very few minds that are being changed. There are people who are being shamed. There are people who are being made to now behave well publicly. But are you changing minds of people? Are there anyone that you're shifting their mindset regarding some of the issues that they already believe in? Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Can I stand up?
Time is of essence, and I think we have only space for 2 questions, and then we're going, yes. Okay, so we'll take the question from here, and then you.
I'm so sorry. I just wanted to add, where are you from, sir? Oh, Tanzania. Oh, okay. How do you access the app? How can I access the app? Could you write it for me, please? Yes, somewhere. Yes, and just give it to you. All right. Thank you so much.
Okay, so my name is Sarah Mwenya from Lusaka, Zambia. I work for Panos Institute, Southern Africa. Before me working in programming, I had an opportunity to work as a fact checker as my first job. I just wanted to sort of like add something to his question in terms of making impact. sometimes I think the issue there is who are you targeting? Because we have different actors when we are actually doing the fact checking job. We have a purveyor, we have a conduit, we have a recipient. Usually the target is for the purveyor, and those already have an agenda. It would be very difficult for you to actually see impact immediately. But we have this recipient that makes a purveyor relevant. And if you target a recipient that makes the purveyor relevant, you'll begin to change things from bottom up. So who are you targeting is the biggest question. You might not see the impact. Probably you are targeting the wrong actor. Now, when you begin to target a recipient, you need to change your messaging. It's very, very important. Why? Because these are the people that are giving relevance, again, to this purveyor or a conduit. So your messaging will actually now help them to speak directly to the purveyor, themselves as recipient, to stop the spread of misinformation and disinformation, or completely stop following the purveyor or the conduit. There you also tackle the issue from bottom up. I thought I should add that. Thank you so much.
Thanks. So just to echo what you were saying, and also answering the gentleman on the issue of impact, I wouldn't really prioritize impact at this point. What I would prioritize is the awareness. So I remember I am from Zimbabwe, but I saw those pictures being shared with me from colleagues from the East. So I think at this point is the awareness, because remember, these are alternative platforms. We are migrating from big tech platforms. So for me, it's what's key is the awareness that you guys are doing.
We've touched on a lot of things, and I know, of course, if we say that we're going to be taking questions, we may talk until for the rest of the day. But I think we have changed minds. I know there's a question like, are we changing minds? I do believe that with what we've discussed here, we've at least changed minds, our own minds, as in the discussants, but as well as the audience. Yeah, so I'll give each one of my panelists a chance to speak, and like to give your closing remarks before we close. Anything that you feel you wanted to speak about and you didn't, in a minute. Yes.
Thank you so much. I think my parting shots are, again, the real threat to mis and disinfo is not just online. It's it having actual implications in the physical world. And again, sometimes it's hard for us to relate what's happening online to offline because we feel like it doesn't affect us, but it actually does. Again, using my examples, Uganda was a vivid example in 2021, the chaos that happened. And the 3 killings that the BBC documented was because of mis and disinformation. Everybody reacted. So I think for us, it's, again, as actors, we need to build capacity on how we are able to integrate, to show the flow of information online, but also how it actually trickles down to the everyday person and how it actually causes real life harm, or even can even, again, support with rapid response, rapid response, especially looking at health crisis. Because if the information landscape is distorted, then it's actually hard for us to, again, be able to cause meaningful change, but also help the communities that we work with. It's not just related to politics, it's looking at climate disasters, it's looking at healthcare. So what does that do? We also, the COVID vaccinations scandal, right? And how people have been refusing to take vaccines. So that is the actual effect of mis and disinformation when you look at a population. My last parting message is, there's a baseline report that's being released on Uganda, looking at the last election cycle. It's going to be released next week. There's a webinar for it. So if you'd like to be part of that webinar, please reach out. Let me know. But it looks at the mis and disinformation landscape of 2021 and what actually led to violence ahead of the 2021 election. The internet shut down, what actually happened then, but it's also looking at the trends now, and it is also going to focus on creating an early warning system of what you should look out for mis and disinformation, and what are the parameters that you should look at when it comes to mis and disinformation campaigns. Yes.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate each and everyone who asked questions or participated in making sure that we have this kind of conversation. We as Jamii Africa are more than ready to collaborate with anyone who would love to deploy similar tools in their countries. We are looking for partners, and actually we are not looking for money from you, but just collaboration. But we believe in strategic collaborations to make sure that we create an informed citizenry. But secondly, I think our moderator and the team for these kind of views that I got from here. It's learning from other players. And lastly, but final views. Our citizens rely on the information they receive on everyday basis. The quality of information they receive, the quality of decision they make. We have a role to help them make informed decision. Collaboration is key. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we should start with Philip, then you close for us, Innocent.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. Just to end, I want to say that to really reclaim the truth and trust, which is the main theme for our discussion this afternoon, we need to take our results, we need to take our impact to the local community, engage them to understand that these things we do is for the benefit of the local community, because these are the communities that really consume the information we send without necessarily verifying to be sure if they are the truth. Thank you.
Yeah, for me, I would like to highlight 7 key lessons that we as Jamii Check have learned over the course of 3 years of operation. So, and I've noted them down here. So for the sake of time, I'll be reading them first. The first lesson is citizens are central. So in everything we do, we must be involving citizens. And the second lesson is local context matters. So what works in Namibia might not be working in Tanzania. And so we should not be deploying big tech like their models. We must come with our own models. And the third lesson is misinformation travels faster than the facts. So we must be acting fast. Yeah, because any delay might cause very big problems to our societies. And the fourth point is cooperation and partnership matters. So we as Jamii Africa, we cannot win alone. So we are calling everyone, we are looking for like-minded partners. So come, we work together so that we can achieve whatever we wish to achieve together. And another thing is media literacy is key. So we will, like, for how long will we keep on doing this job alone? So we need to be empowering other people too. That's why for us, we empower university students, we empower normal citizens, we empower journalists, we empower everyone in our community. Because as I said prior, like, we cannot win alone. So the whole community must be aligned so that we can achieve the bigger goal. And another thing is technology enhances the efficiency of our work we do, but human intervention is essential because this technology never understands the local context. We have spoken a lot of it here today, so we must remember that. And finally, trust is built over time. I remember the moment we used to be debunking at Jamii Check, we used to be criticized so much from people from the government. Like, if we debunk a story which is in favor of the government, like, people used to be criticizing us like we are being used by fallen people. And in case we debunk a story which is in favor of opposition part, they used to be telling us like we are siding with the government. So everyone was like scoring us. Yeah, but over the course of time, now everyone has become our friend. Even the government sometimes, they have very difficult issues that they cannot debunk by themselves, so they bring to us. Same to opposition. So we have earned trust by working so hard in 3 years. So even if you have an initiative that is currently facing challenges like no one understands you, just keep on pushing. There is a day, those who don't understand you today, they will come to understand you later.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks to my panelists. A round of applause, please.